Simon and Martina from South Korea.
Can you compare a little bit about Korea versus Europe and tell some funny stories from your adventures?
I like these Simon and Martina people. They seem to know our lives really well.
I know, they're good.
We should call them up and become BFFs with them.
Do they play Dominion? We like that game.
So for those of you that don't know, we have been out of Korea for over 2 weeks now doing a little mini European tour where we had a chance to meet some of our nasty fans.
Very nasty. And while we were gone, we had some enlightening experiences while we were overseas, and it kind of makes us rethink about the things we're comfortable with in Korea. So when we compare Korea and Europe, we obviously can't compare all of Europe because we haven't been to all of Europe. But if we were to say the title, Korea versus Poland, Sweden, it would be too long. So we're just gonna say Europe, okay?
So to begin with, a very hot debated topic that I think needs to be discussed. Cheese.
So much cheese.
And the lack of cheese in Korea. Now,
Whoa.
we used to be massive complainers about lack of cheese in Korea. Korea likes brie and Korea likes processed cheese, but there doesn't seem to be like a big assortment of cheese available.
No goat cheese.
That's right.
I love goat cheese. Korea doesn't have it.
There are no like cheese boutiques that you can go to and be like, I want to try this cheese, but it's a bit too smoky, and I prefer this one with the mango, and I like this one with the dill rubbing.
When we were in Paris, like right beside our apartment, there was this cheese store, and they offered you a whole assortment of cheeses. And in Amsterdam, they had like this place where they just like shave cheese, and they're like, here, eat some cheese. And, oh, try this cheese, and they just gave you so much cheese.
Now, when we talked to people that were in like the Holland area, they said that Holland actually has too many cows.
So many cows.
They're producing so much milk.
Too much milk.
Ooh, you so nasty.
Get it? Uyu?
Get it,
Because
uyu?
uyu is creamy milk. So because they have so many cows and so much milk, they can make cheese a lot more, while Korea doesn't have that much land to do that much farming for so many cows.
Right, so I mean, if Korea was a bigger place, then maybe they could have huge grazing fields with cows and sheep, and like how North America has tons of cows and like cornfields everywhere.
While Korea has some of the highest population density per arable land, I saw that statistic recently on Wikipedia.
Can you fix your glasses?
They're fake glasses also. Another thing, beef prices in Korea are really, really expensive. When we were in Sweden, we saw this giant thing of ground beef like this, and it was only like 10 bucks. In Korea, you get a small thing like this and it costs you like 12 bucks.
And if it's like the Hanu, if it's like the special meat,
if it's like Korean beef, forget about it. You're taking out a mortgage for that. Something we've learned to appreciate about Korea, which is something that a lot of people seem to knock about Korea, is Korean coffee culture. We were really surprised when we went to, for example, Paris, and we ordered coffees in the morning. You get like little cups of espresso, and we noticed that the espresso, whenever we got it, was like really rushed. They just like slap it on, they throw it on the table like that. They weren't even like even it out, and they just like give you like reheated steamed milk.
Yeah, when we had the cafe au lait for breakfast with our croissant, it was like the milk was just sitting in the pitcher with like crappy over foam. And we went to a lot of cafes in Paris.
A lot in Paris.
And it seems like my understanding of Paris was that they had a coffee culture. Well, I think that that's incorrect. What they have is a cafe culture. Yeah,
right.
Like sitting and watching people with your espresso. But when I looked around, almost all the Parisian people were dumping tons of sugar into their espresso, which means that's not really you enjoying coffee if you put 3 sugar cubes in this tiny cup. So I really feel like Korea has a really amazing booming coffee culture.
Well, when it comes to the indie coffee shops, when it comes to like the bigger franchises in Korea, some of them don't really make good coffee, but like around here in the Hongdae area, if you go to an indie shop that isn't hyper franchise, and you get some really good coffee. A little bit of a funny story to us at least was after one of the events that we wound up doing, I'm not going to name which country, but one of the guards at the event after we wound up performing came up to me and he said, Simon.
Okay, are you gonna have a Russian accent for everyone?
No, this is the European accent.
Okay.
Hey, Simon. Hey, come here. If you want to do smoking something, you let me know, okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's okay, you know.
And you're like, I don't know, that cigarette smells funny.
Like, okay. And then afterwards he's like, let me know if this proposition is interesting to you. So I want to say, thank you very much, but this isn't something that I'm really into. But that made me think, because in Korea, I've never actually been offered any funny smelling cigarettes because it's really, really uncommon here in Korea.
Well, it's not just uncommon, it's illegal, as we saw
Exceptionally illegal.
Didn't you guys just go to jail for that?
The
Well, speaking of smoking weed, we found out that coffee shops in Amsterdam are not coffee shops. Now, we didn't actually find out the hard way by going inside, because we didn't have that much free time, but we found out the hard way by getting laughed at by people.
Right.
Because we're like, I really want to go to a coffee shop. It's really important we go to a coffee shop. I'm going to need some coffee at this coffee shop. And they're like,
you might want to change the word coffee shop, because in Amsterdam, coffee shops aren't really known for the coffee. They're known for their marijuanas.
That's right, you're supposed to go to a bar for coffee. Something that I wanted to mention is that I was a little bit disappointed with some of the fashion. So when it came to the people visiting us at the fan meets, everyone was so fashionable. I mean, like across the country board, so cool. Whether it be like super quirky or just like normal fashionable, but it seems like—
I think that kind of like is obvious to say. It's like, I listen to K-pop, bitch, I'm fabulous.
That's right. But outside of the meets, I found that people are kind of just averagely dressed. And the most place I was surprised by that was Paris, because I expected to see like Parisian fashionistas everywhere. Instead, I was like the freaking weirdo wearing like a big puffy ball gown with like a purple sweater.
A lot of the outfits were very
heels.
like drab and like monochrome, you know, not a lot of like funkiness.
The only time I saw anyone funky was when we went
the Champs-Élysées.
and we saw two girls dressed like head to toe in Chanel, like posing and taking pictures, but they
might have been models or something, I don't know. The whole point is that we really appreciate Seoul's fashion more. I think that this is one of the most fashionable cities we've ever been to.
Yes.
One thing that I learned to appreciate more is exactly how cheap it is to live here in Korea. Because when we went to Norway, things in Norway are really expensive. We saw like a vending machine with a Snickers bar at $5 for a Snickers bar. And then we went to a convenience store to get bottles of water, and the cheapest one was like $4.
And so we ended up with one bottle of water, which
and we just shared that.
Refilled it by the tap.
Whoa. So from what I've learned, if you live in Norway and you get paid Norwegian wages, then come to Korea and you can live like kings and queens.
For everyone!
If you're trying to visit Norway based on the pay that's not Norway pay, then you might be sharing bottles of water.
Prepare yourself.
One of the things that really surprised us about Europe in general is how well everybody speaks English.
Yeah, because I know that English isn't necessarily their first language.
Right.
And so it seems like there's some magical language program at Works that everyone's learning English and turning out like amazing at it, because every single person we met was speaking English fluently and understood us and our crazy fast English speaking.
And we kept on asking them, like, did you go to some kind of gifted school or something for learning English? And they said, no, we just learned it in elementary school, which is bizarre to us because we know that Korea spends some of the most money in the world on English education, and kids start learning English from very young ages, but it's very difficult to have conversations here in English. I don't think that the English education here in Korea is very effective.
I think the problem is that it's focused more on memorization rather than learning realistic language practices.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like Korea teaches more memorization for exams English, while Europe teaches more conversational, functional English.
So I think considering how much money the Korean government is putting into the English language program, I think there should be more of an effect that we can see. Maybe something's going wrong there.
Another thing that surprised us, how everybody in Europe seems to listen to What Does the Fox Say?
Yes, oh my god.
And every country
we went to
is totally blaring everywhere. It's like, is this the new Gangnam Style? It's worldwide.
I feel like it, because like we arrived in Norway and the first song on the radio was like, what does the fox say? And we go to Sweden and it's like, ling, 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 ling. So we have a question for you guys. If you guys have traveled overseas at all, what kind of things have you experienced that kind of changed your mind about your home country, either like in a positive way or in a negative way? Because we feel like traveling overseas really changes your perspectives. It blows your mind. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So I'm curious to hear about some of your comparisons as well.
We're gonna write a little bit more about this in our blog post, so make sure you click on the link here to check that out. So that's it for this week's TLDR. If you have a question for next week's TLDR, leave your question in the comment section below.
Or check out the questions already asked and thumb them up to get to our attention.
And don't forget to subscribe for more TLDRs where we fly to other countries and talk about the stuff we've learned.
I'm gonna make a new hit song and it's gonna be called What Does the Smudge Say?
I hate this meme. Meme. I hate the cat. He just that. Meme. Touch my tummy.